What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Risk Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. Today, I have a super special guest, someone who worked with me for almost a decade ago, Ronnie Smith with Next Level Solutions. Thanks, Ronnie, for coming on.
Thanks for having me today, John. And it's so amazing to go back to think about that it's been over a decade that you and I met. And then here we are today doing what we love with the industry. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk about a really big issue that we get at ProLine a lot, and I had as a roofing contractor, which is how do I set my CRM up and like all the processes that go along with that? How do I make myself and my team more effective, more efficient? There's a lot more to it, but that's in a nutshell, that's what it is what we're talking about. How can we make these really talented tradesmen or really talented salespeople good at technology and utilizing that the best way? So Ronnie, let's just talk about your background. Let's bring people up to date, because I know you, but maybe some other people don't. I think you have a lot of credibility in the industry.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, it's hard to believe that I'm getting ready to celebrate almost 2 decades of being in the construction field. And for those that may know me from doing podcasts and doing other things in the past, for those that I was one of the originals at JobNimbus, I was one of the original 6, one of the shareholders, partners of that. And part of my job was having the privilege to travel the country, working with contractors, whether they were startups to whether they were 50, 60, $70 million in size. And one of the common denominators that I found out is technology, the challenges of that, and getting it to adoption to where people could run their business. So, back in 22, I decided to exit from JobNimbus and I didn't start it, but I kind of went back to my own company, which is Next Level Solutions. And before I had actually worked with them, part of my job was consulting. And what a lot of people may or may not know is what I realized, and John, you and I were just talking about this a second ago, is that I realized when I started traveling and working with contractors that technology issues was just a part of it. I realized earlier on that, hey, they're really good at sales, but the infrastructure, the organization, the efficiencies, and then allowing the vehicles, the technology to be able to run that day to day, it was missing. And so traveling the country, working with contractors from a business consultant, being able to deal with the problems that they have behind the scenes to be able to help with the technology to get to adoption. There's a lot of people that have come from pen and paper to where they've been doing paper contracts. They wasn't used to technology, and technology is a fear. But if they don't get on board with technology, they're going to get left behind. And so it's a big shift right now of people that are trying to adopt to new technology. I can't get that out.
So you heard it here, folks. Somebody other than me telling you that you need to get on board with technology. It's I genuinely have a heart for roofing contractors, or just exterior contractors in general, because I was one, and I know the struggles, and I know when I adopted technology, and I'm not really a tech person. But I knew it was important even 10 years ago, and it's become even more important. If you don't want to get left behind, exactly what Ronnie said, you've got to adopt it, and you really got to you can't just buy a thing and then that's going to fix it. You have to actually implement it in your business and actually watch it change the way you do business.
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Where we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
Because we see this problem in roofing companies, exterior contractors in general, why do you think that these company owners or just companies in general struggle with the adoption?
I think a lot of it is, and I'm gonna kind of back up for a second because I think this is important. I'm gonna kind of tell my age here, but Earlier on in the roofing or really in construction in general, a lot of people had whiteboards, right? You could go back to the whiteboards. And a lot of times when they would have the whiteboards, they were really writing those processes out already. So they're already kind of doing it, but they were writing it on the board. Then they ended up going, John, to the magnets, right? They'd have the magnets,
Yep.
and then they were writing their processes on that. And so that's where, but what happens is the communication breakdown. One of the biggest is one of the biggest problems that I have faced everywhere I've gone is communication breakdown, but also the interpretation of the communication. And so technology is a part of that communication, capturing all the notes, dating, time stamping, everything that's important. And so a lot of times, like when you're trying to schedule appointments, it's like they're riding around in the trucks, they got their calendars and they're writing it down. And a lot of times, even today, working with window and door companies, working with roofing, anything in the home improvement space we work with. And it's amazing to me to see companies that are the size that they are and how they got there. But I have to stop and think, John, if they would have had technology in place, where else could they have been? So, hey, we've been very successful at 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, but where could they have been to where, because now they have the visualization. So you got communications and then the visualization. And even when you and I worked together a long time ago, it's like knowing where you are and knowing the importance of like every job and following up with the customers and that's a big problem in this industry right now. Contractors, especially roofing contractors, they're leaving so much money on the table because they don't have a way of capturing the people that they need to follow up with because they're so focused on all the new stuff that's coming in. And so that's part of what Next Level is focusing on, is really helping them infrastructurally, whether if it's people, processes, technology, and being able to tie all this together so they can run their business, knowing their numbers. And that was one of the things we did the tour on, is like build your business on the numbers. But part of technology that's been a challenge in getting all of the numbers out of the systems. You know what I mean?
Yep. I've seen huge. You talked about revenue. I've seen huge companies, $20+ million companies, and they still have the manila folders in the folder files attached to the wall, and there's a huge wall of those folders. And to your point, it's amazing what they've done because they have a system, they have processes, they do, it's there, but
Right.
it is so limited because there's a physical file for that customer can only be in one person's hand at one time. And
That's
even if
right.
you copy it, when you
Mhm.
write on it, the
Yeah.
next person doesn't know what you wrote. So I think we can all understand that, like, that's very limited. And we always talk about, people love to talk about revenue. They love to talk, how big is your business? Well, that doesn't mean much if you don't have profit. And the other thing people really don't talk about is, how does your team enjoy their job? Do they
Right.
actually enjoy it? Like, or are they having to fight those folders all day long and then they're frustrated with their teammates because the teammates are not communicating, even though they're trying to. And so technology is the way that it doesn't just increase your ability to make revenue, but it's profitability and then an actual lifestyle of the people that are on your team. It was immediate when I had my team and they saw the changes. I had a sales rep who worked with me a long time ago. He went to be a teacher. He came back and we had ProLine. He's like, you've done it. You've done everything that we wanted to do all these years ago. And now his lifestyle was so much better. He wasn't having to write proposals at 7 o'clock at night. He was able to actually enjoy his life more, and he was selling more. So, like, you need to view technology in that way. It's not just profitability, but it's actually like sales, production, administration, the accounting, all of that is enhanced, and those team members get to have a better day and a better week.
Yeah, and then feeding off of what you're saying is like with the technology is like knowing, it's like a GPS, right?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going to punch in the GPS. I'm going to put my destination to where I'm going. and it's going to give me a turn by turn direction. And it's even going to tell me like, hey, there's a roadblock here, or hey, we got backed up traffic. And a lot of times in business, we lose that business GPS, which technology is part of that, because you're able to make better choices and better decisions by knowing, hey, what are my closing ratios? What are my conversion rates? Where is this customer setting at? And with everything with automations, it's like people that are still on pen and paper. And believe it or not, do you know that right now that statistics are showing us that right now 27% of people that are in the roofing or in the construction space are still on pen and paper right now. And the smaller companies are having a hard time. And technology is one of the biggest challenges of of being able to adopt it and to be able to utilize it. And I think a lot of that is just because of the fear of the unknown, right? And another thing is the really not knowing how to set the system up. It's one thing of like going in and logging in and using, because everybody's on technology, everybody uses phones, right? But they're not having to go program that. They're able just to get it, make a phone call, send a text, and that's the easy part. But where the intimidation comes from is really trying to go in to set the system up, to customize the system based off of their businesses and the way they do business, versus of having to like bend the software to where they're not having to run it just based off of the limitations of the software. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I've seen that a lot in the industry over the years,
Yep, absolutely. And it's there's a lot of mental hurdles to get over. If you okay, I have a business or I want to start a business. Either way, we have a lot of our customer base is all over the board. We have a lot of small guys, but we also have a lot of people that are like that $5 to $40 million, and so they're trying to improve they're that part of improve their process, improve their teammates, experiences working on the team. And I just know that it's very difficult if you've got something that's kind of organized your company, but it's not really doing anything for you, that it's a big jump mentally to jump to something else. I totally understand. And, we invest in a lot of things in our businesses: marketing, sales team, sales training, vehicles, vehicle wraps, all those things that we have to, invest in our business. It can be really daunting to say, I'm going to spend this much money for a tech guy to come and fix my platform, whatever the CRM is for the business. So it's good to have people like you that actually are trusted and know what they're doing and want the best for their customers, because it's very hard to find people that are willing to do that and to put forth the effort to help that company grow. It's a hard thing because there's not a lot of people that are willing to do what you guys do.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that I feel that separates my company from other companies is the simple fact that not only do we understand the tech stack, but we also understand the business. And my team, and when we're going in, and like what a lot of people don't understand is like when they're starting a company, or maybe they're $5 million in business, but they don't really have a big team yet. Growing people, having a strong culture is what this is all about. And Next Level lives by 3 E's. This is what we feel. We feel that if we can empower people, or if we can, let me restart that over. If we can educate people, we can empower them. If we can empower people, now they can execute on the plans that they're trying to do. And so I think that's extremely important. So through education, so going in and teaching them how the system functions, because and how does it work? How does it communicate? How does the automations work? How is these integrations going to help me? And put all of this stuff together to where now you have a system in place to where it's not broken processes. And so many things get lost in the translations of that. So having a strong CRM, and then understanding and getting alignment and getting people to use it. And right now, when people are using the technology, it enhances their sales because of the efficiencies. Because now when you're working on the business, I always say this all the time, is like, it's so reverse. A lot of times they're working in the business but at some point, business owners have a hard time working on the business, right? And in some cases, because they don't take the time, and if you will pause and fix the issue. And so sometimes you got to fix the technology. Sometimes you got to shift the technology. Sometimes you've got to be able to level up the people to where they understand the technology through training. And so for the last, 10, 15 years, that's what I've been doing, is like leveling them up to where they can maximize the systems to its fullest extent.
Yep. It's a definite change in mentality, as I was the one man show running around doing all the things, trying to grow the team, and then having to change my mentality to work on the business and actually understand, all right, these are the systems, these are the processes. And it started with pen and paper. It started with whiteboards. It started with all those things that you talked about in the past. It's important. I think it's important for most people, the way they process things is to write it all down like that, so that when someone like you comes on site, you can actually help as an owner. It's not just something that you just come and just fix all. You have a ton of experience, but like you said, every business runs differently. And so, and there are good guidelines, but you need to really focus as an owner to help your team be successful by understanding the processes for each part of the business. So let's talk about moving towards, like, I know you kind of touched on it, but like, if a contractor is reaching out to you right now and who's your, like, who do you love to work with? Who, how does it start? What are your offerings? Take people through that, because I think people don't really know. They don't really understand anyone in the industry that, like, coming on site. What do you do? How do you help people?
Yeah. So let me just start saying this, and we kind of talked about it right before we started filming the show. But part of this is if you look at Next Level and look at the ecosystem, right? Is it all starts with marketing, sales, operations, accounting, and culture development, right? And so when you're looking at technology and you're looking at handoffs, part of this difference is like we start to where their biggest pain point is. And to be honest with you, we're getting into the season right now to where people are already thinking about all the problems that they've had this year. They're already looking at the pain points, and they're going to go on break, and then it happens year over year. They're going to start making these adjustments, right? So where Next Level is able to come in and help them is, like, as we're looking at the tech part of it, and bringing out the efficiencies. And a lot of times when you're looking at the processes, is being able to figure out where are things falling behind the scenes between office to sales when the appointments get scheduled, right? So part of this is just having the industry experience. So we take them on this journey to where we love doing a discovery call to really understand their needs, where they are, where is it falling apart at, where is the miscommunications happening at. And then once we kind of understand that, then we are able to put together a plan, whether we're building out the tech stack or whether they're needing help with their businesses, because we work with people and processes. So if they're trying to hire people, roles, responsibilities. So what they get with Next Level, if we're talking about tech stack specific, they're not just getting that, they're getting us as a consultant as well. And so we're able to come in and, like, understand the vision, understand the direction, understand the pain points, and be able to communicate with the other departments. And one of the things that has been a big struggle is, like, for companies that are 10 to 15 million in size, $20 million in size, is one department not talking to the other department. And so through the technology piece of this is like saying, okay, hey, when this hits here, like, hey, I need a place to where I can review the contract. Well, setting up those automations to be able to tie the departments together, because when we focus on tech stack, we're thinking of it, okay, you have a front office, you have a sales department, you got a production department, you got an accounting department. And so we want to make sure that that customer's journey, we actually keep the customer in mind. And one of the biggest problems is that with inside of our space is follow up. is letting the customers know where they are in the process. Because if they're having to call you, you're already started a downward trend, because they're having to follow. Well, where are we? Especially between the builds in the roofing space, you know as well as I do. So, like when you're thinking about tech stack, so we take these contractors on this journey from the time that the lead comes in, and we basically help them to like what other contractors are doing, like in other words, like the processes, and looking at, if they're at $1 million company right now, they want to go to 5 million. I'm not going to build their system out at a $1 million company. I'm going to build it at a $5 million company, so that way if they hire a production manager, they're able to sit in that seat. If they're going to hire salespeople, they know exactly what needs to be done, and then create the automations. Checklist is huge, and being able to close those audits to where they know, hey, when I did my sales process, I completed it to hand it off. So that's part of what Next Level does is we come meet a contractor to where they are, and we talk through the pain points and the challenges that they're having, and then we solve those through consulting or between the tech stack, creating like automations, checklists, whatever they need to be able to have a successful company and open up communications, basically.
Love it. Love it. People need it. I
Yeah.
needed it for a long time. I did a lot of things by myself for a long time. And then AJ and I worked together for years trying to just figure out the same things that you have figured out and help people do the same thing. So, Ronnie, anything else before we go? Because I think this is super helpful, super important for people. Anything else you can add?
All I will just say is going into 2026. I want people. I would like to say that they need to start thinking ahead. Right, we're going into the fourth quarter, looking at where they are. If you didn't hit your goals, have time to sit down. I would love to even schedule a free consultation with people and just be able to sit down and understand where they are and where their goal is going into 2026. A lot of times people are not thinking about ahead. They're thinking about where they are, and if you're behind the 8 ball. And so I would just challenge people to where if they're not utilizing tech stack, you guys definitely need to reach out to ProLine. John and them has done a really, really good job. And I've had a small chance, John, to go in through the system and kind of take a look at it. But I think that it's important for people to pick the platform. And right now there's a lot of movement in our industry between softwares, and a lot of people are bailing on certain things, and they're just trying to find that perfect software. And honestly, I think you guys should give John and them a call on ProLine.
Appreciate it, Ronnie. How do people get in touch with you and your team?
One way that they could do that is they could actually just email us at info@nxtlvlsolutionsinc.com. And then, of course, we have a number. They can always reach out to me directly. And my email address is just Ronnie, RONNIE, @nxtlvlsolutionsinc.com. And send me a message. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm here to help our industry any way we can.
Well, Ronnie, thanks for coming on the podcast today. And thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. Until next time, Big Roofs Podcast. See you later.